You're listening to The Pump Fake. All right, everybody, welcome into the latest live edition of The Pump Fake. We are presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Jarrett Bailey here with you, as always, getting set to recap every game from Week 12 Sunday. And as always, we'll start off with the big three and then get to every other game after that. So if you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, do all that good stuff. And without further ado, let's hop into our first game, being the Dallas Cowboys against the Philadelphia Eagles, as I get the numbers pulled up here in front of me. So the story of this game was, all right, Philadelphia goes up 21-0. And for the first 25 minutes of this game, it felt like Dallas was going to get blown out. Didn't have much answers for Philadelphia offensively. You know, the Eagles were able to move the ball at will. A.J. Brown got involved really early on, had the touchdown grab, Jalen Hurts placing it over the middle of the field over top of the defense pretty nicely. And, you know, Philadelphia just hopped out to a massive 21-0 lead. And the Cowboys drive down into the red zone. I believe Jake Ferguson got the ball within the 2-yard line. And instead of running the ball, I mean, the Cowboys did a lot of throwing, and Dak Prescott ends up throwing an interception in the end zone. And I felt like that was just about the game at that point. But the Cowboys come back. George Pickens scores a touchdown before halftime. It's a 21-7 game at that point. And for the rest of the game, Philadelphia can get nothing going offensively. They don't score a point in the second half. And then Dallas's offense comes to life, where Dak Prescott looked like, similar to what we saw in the first game. And look, CeeDee Lamb drops that were also big in the first game in Week 1 to open up the season were a big storyline here. He dropped one in the end zone that, could have decided the game if not for very good special teams by the Cowboys to set up an eventual score again. But Dak on the day, 23 of 36, 354 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have an interception, but was only sacked one time, finished with a passer rating 103.2, a QBR of 60.1. On the ground, Dallas, 125 yards on 4 yards per attempt. Javonte Williams, 87 yards. But Dak really put everything on his shoulders in this game. And that's a big reason why the Cowboys were able to come out on top, is because of the play of Dak Prescott, but also the play of George Pickens, who, right now we're having a real conversation. Is George Pickens the better receiver on the Cowboys roster? 9 catches, 146 yards, and a touchdown for Pickens on the day. CeeDee Lamb, respectable today, 4 catches, 75 yards, but was targeted 11 times. So Pickens certainly the more efficient of the two. Pickens caught all 9 targets that were thrown his way. And so not only was he catching these passes, but he was efficient when it came to the 50-50 balls. There was a beautiful catch that George Pickens made. Double coverage. Dak throws it up to him. George goes over the top of, I believe it was Cooper DeJean, to make the catch. And it's that talent that we knew was there in Pittsburgh. It was just never able to be showcased because they didn't have a quarterback capable of helping him showcase it. He comes to Dallas, and Dak Prescott and him have made a tremendous connection, where George Pickens is now second in the NFL in receiving yards and could very well be on his way to an all-pro season. And we're seeing why Dallas can still be a very viable threat in the postseason should they get there, and why no one's going to be lining up to play them. They play Kansas City on Thanksgiving. That is going to be such a fantastic game. And I want to say it was Ari Myrov who put out a good point on Twitter. This might be the most watched regular season game in NFL history. The previous record's Cowboys-Giants from a couple years ago. I think Ari is right in saying that this will be the most watched game ever. Both teams fighting for playoff position. It's the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, so the rating's going to be high regardless of who they play. But the fact that it's the Chiefs and the fact that Kansas City's fighting for its playoff live, this game has the potential to be the most watched regular season game of all time. Dallas now 5-5-1. And I picked them to be a playoff team in spite of the trade of Micah Parsons, in large part because this offense can be so dangerous. But the story of the second half was the defense. Quinnen Williams had a tremendous game. You know, he left the game after being chipped pretty hard from Saquon Barkley, but did come back in. And we're seeing this Dallas defense, specifically against the run, really show up when they needed him to. Saquon Barkley only had 22 yards on the ground in this game. And the combination of being able to stop the run and getting to Jalen Hurts and making him uncomfortable proved to be incredibly pivotal for the Cowboys. And it's a game that they needed to win. If you lose this game, you go to 4-6-1. It's hard to see a world where Dallas gets into the postseason if they fall below that threshold. But now at 5-5-1 in an NFC that still has wild card spots up for grabs, I don't think they're going to be able to come back and beat Philadelphia for the division, but they can certainly get one of these wild card spots, you know, especially seeing, you know, just the rest of the depth in the NFC not be as strong as we originally anticipated. But you get to 5-5-1 and you look at that offense when it's on. I mean, you got to deal with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Javonte Williams. And this defense that doesn't need to be all-star caliber good. It just needs to be fine. You know, if the Cowboys defense can just be the 17th best defense in football for the rest of the way, and Dallas's offense lives up to what we've seen thus far, they'll be a playoff team. Absolutely massive win for Dallas. Big win for Brian Schottenheimer, who, you know, a lot of people had questions about coming into this year, but has proved himself as a viable NFL head coach. So credit to him for that. In terms of Philadelphia, you know, this doesn't all of a sudden make them a horrible team. However, they aren't the team that I'm picking to get out of the NFC. They weren't the team I picked to come out of the NFC to begin with. But the fact that they can't run the ball, you know, that's their offensive identity. Yes, they have all these great stars in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert when he's healthy. But their identity is being able to run the football and leaning on that to create an incredibly balanced attack. You know, they've had running backs in the past that have had good seasons. Miles Sanders had a tremendous year with the Philadelphia Eagles and turned it into a big contract. You know, since he went to Carolina, you know, there hasn't been many Miles Sanders sightings. DeAndre Swift, since about week 6 in Chicago, has kind of come alive, but it's nothing like what he was doing in Philadelphia. The reason that they went out and got Saquon Barkley is to help put him over the top, and he did that. They won a Super Bowl, and that's great. But this season, they've been missing that. They haven't been able to get the ground game going, and that in large part has affected what they've been able to do with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So everything just feels very discombobulated right now with Philadelphia. They weren't the team I picked anyway to come out of the NFC, but especially right now, you know, looking at all their offensive issues, and they've really come to light at the worst possible times. Let's go to our second game. The Kansas City Chiefs come back from a 20-9 deficit to take down the Indianapolis Colts. And if you just looked at like the raw stats, you'd have thought the Chiefs won by 30. They had 33 first downs to the Colts 10. They had 494 total yards to the Colts 255. But turnovers and the inability to convert red zone trips into touchdowns hurt Kansas City. They had 6 red zone trips in this game. They scored a touchdown, just one of them, including a Kareem Hunt fumble in the red zone. And they gave the Colts a very short field in the first quarter after a Patrick Mahomes interception. Set them up inside the 10, which they converted with a touchdown to Michael Pittman. Penalties were a big story in this game. The Chiefs didn't have 10. They had 7 for 57 yards. The Colts had 11 for 83 yards. But in just about every metric possible, I mean, the Chiefs held the ball for 42 minutes and 35 seconds. The Colts had the ball for less than 26 minutes. Like, everything that we look at, you would say, oh, yeah, the Chiefs dominated this game. And they did, but they also shot themselves in the foot a lot, and that allowed the Colts to capitalize and take a 20-9 lead. Unfortunately for Indianapolis, though, Kansas City got everything together when they needed to and outscored the Colts 14-0 in the final 2 quarters, the fourth quarter into overtime. And now for Kansas City, it's a massive win for obvious reasons. They avoid dropping below 500, going to 5-6. And when you look at the current landscape in the AFC, where all 3 wildcard teams right now are 7-4. Chargers, Jaguars, and Bills. Those are the 3 teams that hold the wildcard seeds, all with a 7-4 record. The Houston Texans are now 6-5. They won 3 straight. The Steelers are 6-5. AFC North going back and forth. Baltimore is 6-5. And so the Chiefs, while we all expect them to get this thing together and be a playoff team, had they lost this game and fallen to 5-6, they would have had to run the table basically to guarantee a playoff spot, because 10 wins this season in the AFC isn't going to guarantee you a spot. And while they certainly could have run the table, I mean, they went 15-2 last season. Like, if any team can do it, it is them. To be able to get a big win over an AFC opponent and get to 6-5, that's big for them. For the Colts, they're a game ahead of Jacksonville, 2 games ahead of Houston. I still expect them to win this race and be the winner in the AFC South, especially just because of how volatile the Jaguars have proven to be. I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 3 interceptions against Arizona. The Texans' defense is miraculous, but also has trouble offensively. Even though they've won 3 in a row with Davis Mills, offensively, they are just so thin when it comes to talent on that side of the ball. And so I still think it'll be Indianapolis that comes out. But this was a big loss for them because we've seen, when they kind of have and I think it was Mark Sessler of Heed the Call who made this point. We've seen a couple of times where they go into a big spot and, against Pittsburgh when they could have really put the throttle down and had a nice win on the road, the Steelers took advantage of it and they turned the ball over, 6 times? And in this game against Kansas City, this had the chance to be a big signature win. You're up by 11 in the fourth quarter. It's a lead that you have to hold on to if you want to be taken seriously as a legit contender. Because even though the Colts are 8-3 and they were 8-2 going into this game, a lot of people, and look, myself included, look at them and say, okay, yeah, but it's the Colts. They haven't, they're not a proven power in the NFL. It's Daniel Jones at quarterback. There's still those questions. And whether it's fair or not, they're there. So a bit of a missed opportunity for the Colts. If you're the Jaguars and the Texans looking up at Indy, you're getting a little bit closer to be able to reach and pull them down. But a big win for Kansas City when they really needed it in terms of staying in the AFC playoff race, but also keeping the slim chance that they have of coming back and winning the AFC West alive. It might seem improbable, but remember a few years ago, the Bills were 6-6, 3 games behind the Dolphins in the AFC East, ran the table, and won the division in the final game of the year. So it's not impossible. If anybody can do it, it is Kansas City. And we'll see if they're able to pull it off in 2025. Third big game, the Sunday night game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one got away very quickly from the Bucs. The story in this game, though, Baker Mayfield suffers a left shoulder injury, finished the second half wearing a sling on the sideline. It's an AC joint injury. We'll see if he plays this coming Sunday. But now for the Buccaneers, they went from a team, being talked about as legit Super Bowl contenders to now being a team that, hey, Carolina is not too far behind them when it comes to the playoff standings. But the big thing here for me is the dominance that the Los Angeles Rams continue to show. Everybody said it already, so you're going to hear stuff that sounds like a broken record, but Matthew Stafford, the absolute runaway for MVP right now. 30 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Over his last 8 games, 25 touchdowns and no interceptions. Just absolute insane run. And going back to August, I said on this show, all right, I might be out on the Rams with all of this hydraulic chamber or whatever the hell it was called that they're bringing in for Stafford and his back. He couldn't practice for the longest time. Just vibes felt very weird in Los Angeles. But the connection with Davante Adams has worked. He leads the NFL in touchdown catches, had 2 more against the Buccaneers. Puka Nacua continues to prove to be one of the most versatile receivers in the game in terms of gritty underneath catches, downfield catches, run blocks his ass off. And they're getting so much out of these tight ends. They go heavy personnel a lot. Colby Parkinson had a touchdown against the Bucs. Right now, they just look like an unstoppable train. And it's week 12. So, there's plenty of teams who have looked like the undisputed top team in the NFL at this point, and they don't end up coming out of their respective conferences or whatnot. But right now, the Rams are the best team in football. That doesn't guarantee them anything. But the way that quarterback's playing, the fact that we know this team can get to the Super Bowl with that head coach, that quarterback, and it would be Sean McVay's 3rd trip to the Super Bowl with a completely different cast of characters each time, which is, when you think about it, 3 Super Bowl trips for Sean McVay, should they get there this year, and just all the different pieces that have gone into each one. The first one, the 2018 season with Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, Brandon Cooks was on that team. The second time around, it's the Stafford team. Von Miller, part of that team, Odell Beckham. And then this time around, it would be Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and no Aaron Donald, a bunch of guys defensively that they drafted and grew in-house. The Rams are the best team in the NFL in terms of winning multiple ways and team building multiple ways. Les Snead very infamously said, F them picks, when building the team that won the Super Bowl in 2021. But they've also gone about acquiring homegrown talent with Jared Verse, Fisk, Kobe Turner, like all those guys in the front 7, for the most part, they drafted. And even a guy like Emmanuel Forbes was considered a bust of a first-round pick by Washington, comes to Los Angeles and has played really good football. Puka Nacua, they got him on day 3. A lot of these tight ends that were cast-off parts, they've come in and filled a role for the Rams. Kyron Williams, all pro. Like, these are all homegrown talents, and they've completely flipped the script in terms of how they've gone about team building and the way that they've done it. Les Snead, legitimately one of the best general managers of all time. Sean McVay, one of the best head coaches of all time. And if they get back to the Super Bowl and they win another one, we're going to have some serious conversations about where Sean McVay does fall in that upper echelon of all-time great coaches and where Matthew Stafford falls in the all-time echelon of great quarterbacks, because he's on an absolute tear right now, which has been terrific to see. We'll be right back after this word from Whatnot. This episode of The Pump Fake is brought to you by Whatnot. Guys, if you know me, you know how big of a nerd I am. That's right, Rex Ryan. Mike McDaniel isn't the only nerd boy associated with the NFL. I've given a tour at my office before on social media. It's decked out wall to wall with a lot of Batman toys, collectibles, horror stuff, Michael Myers, Art the Clown. As you see behind me in the backdrop, lots of NFL memorabilia and things of that nature. And a lot of this stuff, specifically all the DC and all the horror, a lot of that stuff was found on Whatnot. And whether you are into Batman like me, if you're a Marvel person, another DC entity, horror, pro wrestling, NFL, NBA, NHL, whatever sport tickles your fancy, I promise Whatnot has something for you. Click on the link in the description to get started today and find something for you, for somebody else. It's almost Christmas time. Maybe you want to find somebody special in your life, something that they enjoy collecting or something associated with it. Whatnot is the perfect place to go for all of your collectible needs, or again, somebody that you value in your life and their collectible wants and needs. And with it being the holiday season, this is the perfect time to get started. So head over to whatnot.com. The link is in the description below, and start sharing, shopping, and connecting. All right. Welcome back to the Week 12 recap show on the Pump Fake. And now we will go through the remaining games from Week 12 Sunday. We'll start in Chicago. The Steelers fall to the Bears. They are now 6-5, and they have successfully choked away what was a 3.5 game lead in the AFC North. Second straight year the Steelers have done that, by the way. Remember last year they were 10-3. They had a 2-game lead late in the season, and then they lost every one of their games, and including in the postseason to Baltimore. I talked about this a lot already on Believe in Steelers, and so for the sake of everybody who either listened to that or watch Believe in Steelers on their YouTube feed, I don't want to dive too much more into that and be repetitive on both shows. If you want the deep dive into my thoughts on the Steelers, the video is on YouTube. It is also in the podcast feed, so you can go check that out. But the gist of it is that things in Pittsburgh are never going to change if they don't change things. And it's been apparent for a long time to a lot of Steelers fans that Mike Tomlin's run his course with the Steelers. It doesn't matter what offensive coordinator is there, what quarterback is under center. They refuse to throw the ball over the middle of the field. And it's pretty apparent that that's because Mike Tomlin worries about turnovers, and he thinks that's where turnovers happen. And the team is just far too cautious and plays so scared. A big rebuild is in need to happen for the Steelers. And as a Steelers fan, I hope it happens sooner rather than later. But I know better to not hold my breath in hopes of that, because Mike Tomlin is signed through 2027. He'll probably be here through 2027. So it's almost a moot point at this point, because, the vast majority of Steelers fans kind of think the same way, where, yeah, he should be gone, but he won't be. And that's a problem. And the Steelers are going to be, forever in that 9-10 win category of, yeah, they can maybe get into the postseason, but they're certainly not Super Bowl threats because of it. Credit to the Bears. They're 8-3. Not to rain on their parade or anything like that. Like, yeah, they're 8-3. I don't see them as Super Bowl threats. They'll probably be a playoff team. I still think Green Bay or Detroit win that division. Chicago gets in as the 5 or 6 seed. Depending on where they go, it could be an NFC North matchup in the wild card round. So that's always fun when you get divisional games in the postseason. But credit to them for finding holes in the Steelers' very weak defense. DJ Moore had a big game. Caleb Williams made big throws when he needed to. So credit to them for doing that. They were very opportune in terms of turnovers as well. So credit to them for that. Chicago gets to 8-3. The Patriots defeat the Bengals. They are the first team to get to 10 wins. They take over as the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Bengals, there's no room for error. If they lose another game, they are certainly out of the postseason picture. They're out of the postseason picture right now, in my opinion. Probably needed to win one of these last 2 games, get to at least 4-7 before Joe Burrow comes back to try to run the table. Even if they run the table now, it doesn't feel likely that they're going to get a playoff spot. And if they do, it'll certainly be the final seed, but they're going to need a lot of help along the way. Will Campbell goes down in this game. Mike Vrabel said today they don't believe it's season ending. That's great. Drake May didn't have his best game. Did throw a pick 6 to Geno Stone in this game, but he finished the day 22-35, 294 yards and a touchdown to go along with it. Was only sacked once. Running wise, the Patriots had over 100 yards, but less than 4 yards a carry. I thought that Cincinnati's defense actually did a pretty good job of showing up and doing all they could. But without Jamar Chase, T. Higgins goes down in this game as well. There's only so much that Joe Flacco could really do. We'll see what his next journey is going to be, or what the next stop in his journey will be. He's made it pretty clear he would love to start again somewhere. So perhaps in 2026, he will be. The Giants and the Lions, what a game this was. Very back and forth. I applaud Mike Kafka, the interim head coach and offensive coordinator for the Giants, because whenever you get in this situation, you're 2-9, just do shit. Be weird. Be aggressive. They ran so much goofy stuff in this game, and it worked. Devin Singletary got a toss. He threw it back to Jameis Winston, who threw a touchdown to Wan'Dale Robinson. Gunnar Olszewski, who's like their return specialist, threw a pass to Jameis Winston, who scored a touchdown on it. But unfortunately for the Giants, Jahmyr Gibbs had a massive day, 3 touchdowns on the ground for Jahmyr Gibbs, 219 yards rushing. He averaged 15 yards a carry. So 2 touchdowns on the ground for Jahmyr Gibbs. He had 1 receiving as well, good for over 260 yards from scrimmage from Jahmyr Gibbs. If you would say right now Jahmyr Gibbs is the best running back in football, I'd agree with you. The way that he can take over games and has taken over games this year, it's unlike anybody in the NFL. When he hits that next gear, no one's catching him. I know that Jonathan Taylor's having a fantastic season right now. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the best running back in football. And again, when he gets going, the way that Detroit's offense, their efficiency difference when he's on one compared to when he's not, it's extravagant. So 15 carries, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. He's become very much the clear number 1 in that offense. David Montgomery, only 5 carries on the day. So, while this is still, the Sonic and Knuckles backfield, Sonic is running the show. And he's become, again, in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL. 11 catches for Jahmyr Gibbs on the day. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown. Detroit gets a 7-4, remains a game behind the Chicago Bears in the NFC North. And for the Giants, again, they're trying things. It's clear that there's something there in terms of like the talent that they have and the play calling that they have with Mike Kafka. I won't be surprised if Kafka's the guy going forward, because he's been a name that's hovered around NFL head coaching jobs before. And I think so far he's done a good job. He's had them in both games against the Packers and the Lions, both of which they've only lost by 1 score. They're going to be a team that no one wants to play, even at 2-10. This is a team that's been very fun to watch, and good for Mike Kafka for keeping them competitive. A shame for them that they didn't hold on to the win, but a very good game for them in terms of just showing that they're a real football team. Sticking in the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers defeat the Minnesota Vikings 23-6. What more can be said about J.J. McCarthy, man? This is approaching like Josh Rosen territory, where the Vikings just might call it after a year with him under center. 12 of 19, 87 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked 5 times, QBR of 17.9. I won't be surprised. By the way, Kevin O'Connell announced today that he's now in concussion protocol, which, again, don't think we saw anything about that yesterday. That kind of came out of the blue. So I think it's very reasonable to say he may have played his final snap in a Vikings uniform. I don't know what they would get in return for him, but if Kevin O'Connell can't do anything with you, dude, like it's not saying a lot. And, the Vikings have gotten a lot out of quarterbacks over the past few years in terms of obviously what we saw from Darnold last year, but, the Josh Dobbs run that they went on, having to, put guys in place of Kirk Cousins once he got hurt. O'Connell's gotten a lot of success out of a lot of guys. Carson Wentz, looked okay for spurts this season. So I think that they're going to bring somebody else in next year. I don't think it'll be a draft pick. I think it'll be a veteran. That could be wrong, but I think that it could be a veteran. And the person that's come to mind, I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings would try to make a play for Trevor Lawrence, because I don't think Trevor Lawrence is Liam Cohen's guy going forward. And I don't know if Trevor Lawrence fits what Liam Cohen wants to do. And considering the performance that we saw from Trevor against Arizona, and we've seen him look very inconsistent this year as a whole. I think a fresh start for him would be good. And doing it in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell, a guy who helped revitalize the career of Sam Darnold, brought in Daniel Jones for, a half-season rehab stint. We're seeing how good Daniel Jones has looked. I would keep an eye on Trevor Lawrence and the Vikings calling the Jaguars about making a play for Trevor Lawrence in the offseason. Just something to put in the back of your mind. But Green Bay gets the win. Josh Jacobs didn't play in this game. Emmanuel Wilson had a nice game, though. 170 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Jordan Love, they didn't ask him to do too much. They ran the ball 42 times, only threw it 21 times. Bad weather in Green Bay. But defensively, hold the Vikings to 6 points, and they get to 7-3-1. And also, like the Lions, keep pace with the Chicago Bears in an NFC North race that features 3 teams with 7 or more wins right now. Pretty great division. The Seahawks defeat the Titans. Cam Ward probably had his best game as a pro. They keep things close with Seattle, but Jackson Smith and Jigba and Sam Darnold right now might be the best connection in the NFL. He catches 2 touchdowns on the day. Sam Darnold, 16-26, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 167 yards on 8 receptions. Cam Ward on the day, 256 yards and a touchdown, was sacked 4 times, but did have a QBR of 75.1. Seattle continues to be dominant. Really loving what I'm seeing from them. I'm not going to pretend that I watched every snap of this game. It was in the quad box on my second TV. But JSN, I saw a stat that he has the most yards per route run since Brandon Ayuk in 2023. And a eagle-eyed 49ers fan pointed out, I wonder who the pass game coordinator for the 49ers was that year. It was Brandon Ayuk. Or excuse me. Wow, I really fucked that. Let's try that again. I wonder who the pass game coordinator for the 49ers was that year. It was Clint Kubiak, who is now the Seahawks offensive coordinator. Oh, man. That would have been a really good drop had I not completely butchered it. But yes, good things happen when you have Clint Kubiak on your staff. And right now, he's probably going to be the hottest name in terms of, hey, X team has a job opening. Maybe Clint Kubiak becomes the head coach. Maybe he sticks around in Seattle for another year or two and, really gets to pick where he wants to go. I wouldn't be in a hurry if I was him. The offense looks really good. The Seahawks look really good, and they can win a lot of games. But Clint Kubiak's done a great job. The Ravens outlast the Jets and win 23-10. Ugly game overall. Baltimore seems to have a couple of these a year where they just look like they've never touched a football before against a bad team. Lamar Jackson, 13-23, $157. They didn't eclipse 100 yards on the ground either. Offensively, just a mess of a game for the Ravens. The Jets, looked pretty solid offensively, at least through the air. Tyrod Taylor, 222 yards on 17 completions, threw a touchdown, was sacked 3 times, though, and did have an interception near the end of the game. But I think with the Jets, they're just trying to see what they have offensively. John Mechie looks like he could be, a real piece for them. He had a touchdown on 6 catches, 65 yards. So we know what the deal is with the Jets. They're just trying to figure out what they have going forward. Putting Tyrod in was the best thing that they could do, especially for their passing game, because Justin Fields just isn't a starting caliber NFL quarterback. So the Ravens win that game and take over as leaders in the AFC North. They won 5 in a row. From 1-5 to 6-5, they've come all the way back. Shedeur Sanders gets his first win as a starter against the Las Vegas Raiders, who were just a mess. They fired offensive coordinator Chip Kelly after just 11 games. He was the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. Didn't even last a full season. Sanders, 11 of 20, 209 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Had a really nice deep shot that set up the second Quinshon Judkins touchdown run, which put the Browns up, I think it was 14-0 or 14-3. That was basically the game at that point. Browns defense is too good. The Raiders offense is really bad. How many times did they sack Geno Smith? 10 times they sacked Geno Smith. Myles Garrett had 3 of them. He's now got 18 on the year. He is just 5 sacks away from breaking the single season sack record. He's going to shatter that record. Good for Myles Garrett. Shedeur Sanders will start against the 49ers next week in Cleveland. He is also the first Browns quarterback to win his first start since the team resurrected in 1999. Talked about Trevor Lawrence already a little bit, but the Jaguars did win in Arizona in overtime. But my God, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has reached, oddly enough, that Kyler status where he'll have a game where he looks really good and then about 3 where he looks just inconsolable and unfixable. 18 of 30, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, just such an up and down Trevor Lawrence-y game. And like we used to see this from Kyler, right? Where he would just have like these weird ass stat lines, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 350 yards. He'd also lose a fumble. Like we're seeing that from Trevor now, where he'll make a few plays a game that'll get you back in the game, but it's cleaning up a mess that he made. I'm a Trevor believer. I'd like to think that he can turn this thing around and become, a top 10 quarterback. I think I put him in like right on the edge of the top 10 before the season started. I want to say I had him 11 or 12. It'd be hard to justify putting him there right now. And that's why, I talked about it earlier. I would keep an eye on the Vikings, maybe calling about a trade in the offseason. Because like just seeing the body language from Liam Cohen on the sideline, I just don't think that Trevor's his guy long-term. And I think he's going to want to get his own guy in there, which could lead to the Vikings, who are desperate need for a quarterback. Trevor has shown that he is a quality starter in the NFL. It's just a matter of finding a right spot for him to hone in on what he does well. So the Jaguars win. They're 7-4. They hold the number 6 seed in the AFC right now. The Cardinals are 3-8 after starting 2-0. Going to Atlanta, New Orleans. This is a game that took place. Kirk Cousins threw a couple touchdowns. The Falcons won. None of these teams really need to be taken seriously. What a way to end. What a way to end the Week 12 Sunday recap. I just can't be bothered to care about the Falcons or the Saints. They're just 2 bad teams. Taysom Hill's still a thing somehow in the year 2025. Can we knock that shit off? That's annoying. Good Lord. But yeah, the Falcons won. Good for Kirk Cousins, friend of the show. But I just could not be bothered to care about that game. We did the give a shit index earlier in the season. It's a living, breathing document. Both those teams are near the bottom. You don't have to care about the Falcons or the Saints for the rest of the year. But that is the Week 12 recap. We have Panthers and 49ers on Monday Night Football. We'll head over to FanDuel real quick just to see what the official line is for that game. The official line for Panthers and 49ers is Panthers are 7.5-point dogs. That feels like a big number for a 49ers team that's been very up and down and has a lot of injuries. Over-under for the game is 49.5. I love taking unders, so I might take that. But Panthers, 49ers, Monday Night Football, San Francisco at home, favored by 7.5. We'll be back later on in the week to get you set for all the Thanksgiving games, as well as Week 13 in the NFL. I was thinking about this today. I think Thanksgiving week is my favorite week of the year. Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Again, we'll be back before Thanksgiving. But it is my favorite week. Just being with my people, Black Friday shopping, Christmas season kicking into high gear. I love this week so much. And I hope that you guys have a tremendous week. And I look forward to spending part of my week with you, getting you set for Week 13. So until then, talk soon. Have a good night. This is the Pump Fake.